panic, shall we? We are roughly 20% into the season. The Heat have only played 14 games somehow, and the Wizards 15, but most teams are somewhere in the 17 to 19 range, so we're 20-ish%, give or take. We do have some pleasant surprises, including Michael Pina's Houston Rockets, who you wrote about this week on theringer.com. They are sitting third in the West at 12-6. We have the Warriors are a pleasant surprise at 12-5. I wrote about them and their weird, amazing experimental depth thing. I wrote about that last week on theringer.com. They're at 12-5. The Cavaliers, of course, are a pleasant surprise at 17-1, still stunning. We've got some lower ranked teams that are also pleasant surprises before we get to the panics. Nets at 8-10 with back-to-back wins against the Kings and Warriors. Pistons at 8-11, Spurs at 9-8. Those are all like pleasant surprises, right? Anyone I missed on the pleasant surprise before we get to our utter just disappointments?
I think you pretty much covered it. Did you say the Memphis Grizzlies?
I did not cover the Grizzlies, but yeah, I guess they should be in that category too, right? I think we expected them to be good, but they've been pleasantly good despite the usual, like everybody injured all the time issues. Which brings us then to our disappointments, our face plants and face palms and just bafflingly inept. Pina, you know me, I'm a big, like, don't panic, it's early guy. I try to pump the brakes on all of the freakouts. But when we're close to 20 games, things get real in a hurry. And we're close to 20 games. So here's the panic meter scale I'd like to use. And we're going to each throw a couple of teams out. We did not share them ahead of time, so we'll see where this goes. Here's the scale I came up with. Panic meter 1 through 5, where 1 is the most mild. You're just kind of antsy. Maybe your brow is furrowed. Something's furrowed. A 2 would be mildly irritated, chewing your nails a bit. 3 is like heart palpitations. You're just like obsessively cleaning your apartment just to distract yourself. 4, you're like sweating and cursing. Maybe kicking things. 5 is a 3 Mile Island scale nuclear meltdown. So there's our panic meter. I'll let you go first. Who's on your panic meter watch and where do they rank or rate?
So before I say this team, I just want to say that, we obviously did not share our teams with each other. So I went a little, I don't want to say outside the box, but I picked a couple teams that I didn't think that you would pick.
All right, we'll go back and forth on this. So let's just go with one first. Yeah.
This will make a lot of people upset and will also be on brand for me personally. I'm going with the Los Angeles Lakers.
So on brand that I'm disappointed in myself that I did not see it coming. Where are they on the 1 through 5 panic meter, despite the fact that they actually have like an okay record at the moment?
Yes,
they are 10-6 as we record this on a Tuesday.
Let me run through it first, and then I'll give you my panic. So yeah, as you said, they're 10-6. They're 4th in the West. They have a top 5 offense. LeBron is still efficient and nearly averaging a triple-double. Anthony Davis looks like an MVP candidate. Dalton Connect might win Rookie of the Year. All that's fantastic. So
this all sounds great, Michael.
So why is there reason to be worried? The Lakers rank 17th in net rating and are a net minus in point differential, which is about in line with a 40-win team. What a 40-win team would be projected to finish at. ESPN's BPI, which is a projection system that is based on a host of factors, including strength of schedule, gives 8 other Western Conference teams a higher odds to make the playoffs. And that makes sense when you look at the teams that the Lakers have actually beaten that are above 500. So you have the Suns in their second game of the season. You have the Spurs, the 9-8 San Antonio Spurs, and the Grizzlies without Ja Morant and Desmond Bane. That's it. Those are the only teams that they've beaten that are above 500. LA's defense is worse than every team except the Wizards, the Pelicans, and the Bulls. They are second to last in fast break points allowed. They are 28th protecting the paint. They have not increased their three-point rate despite JJ Redick saying they would before the season began. They are bad rebounding on both ends of the court. Their net rating, this is why they're 10-6. Their net rating with LeBron and AD on the court is minus 5.5 points per 100 possessions in 365 minutes.
That's
so
insane.
When you kind of look at everything together, when you look at how well those two have played, and you see the total picture of numbers that are historically good or better than a record at projecting how a team will do in the future, this is like low key very worrisome because LeBron is almost 40 years old. AD is historically injury prone. They will probably not play in every game from here on out.
Almost certainly not.
And if you look at the teams that are below them right now in the standings, they're fourth right now. If you look at the teams below them, almost all of them have dealt with injuries or spent the first few weeks of the season adjusting to some significant off-season change with their personnel. Yeah. And I just think like when you look at LA's roster as a whole, it's not good. so no. I don't know how how you get better as a basketball team. They've already shifted the starting lineup, et cetera. So yeah, I think that the Lakers, it's time to panic. And I think that that's a fair statement to make.
And where are they in the 1 through 5 scale?
So before you outline what the numbers actually mean, I had them at I had them at 4, but I'm adjusting that. I'm going down to a 3. I don't want to be crazy. But I think 3, just because for all the reasons that I outlined, and I don't see a path for them to get better in a lot of these areas.
Yeah. Definitely outside the box in that I was thinking obviously more, mostly teams that were either hovering around 500 who should be much better than that or below 500. So a team that's sitting at 10-6 as the Lakers are. I like it. Definitely outside the box and a little unexpected. Look, they've had some good vibes early on, and everyone's happy about JJ. Everybody's happy about Dalton Connect, and LeBron still looks great. But you're right. I mean, it's the underpinnings, the fundamentals are disturbing to say the least. And when I'm looking at the teams behind them, as you just pointed to, like the Grizzlies have more talent, and they're right behind them, and the Grizzlies have just had a lot of injuries. They're almost certainly going to pass them. Your LA Clippers, Michael Pina, another team you've been very high on, or a contrarian
juggernaut,
the juggernaut that is the Clippers. I'm still not convinced that they're like significantly better than Lakers, but there's a good chance they pass them. The Suns at full health would, and it started out really well before Durant went down, and he's back, I think, maybe tonight. I don't know what to think about the Nuggets, and the Mavericks have been missing Luka. So yeah, there's a lot of teams behind them, and the Minnesota Timberwolves as well. There's a lot of teams behind them that should probably be ahead of them. And that's why we can always still fall back on it's too early to draw hard and fast conclusions, but not too soon to panic. I guess if I were just to weigh in real quick on it, yeah, I'm not sure I'm panicking about the Lakers, only because if they've overachieved their fundamentals, cool. If I'm a Laker fan, I maybe I'm a 2 on this. I'm mildly irritated and chewing my nails because Michael Pina just read me a bunch of negative stats that undermined all of my happy feelings, and on Thanksgiving week, no less. All right. My first team, I'm going much more conventional here, not nearly as creative as Mr. Pina. The New Orleans Pelicans.
Mm-hmm.
New Orleans Pelicans. I mean, this is just a classic kind of near meltdown here. They are, as we speak, 27th in offensive rating, 29th in defensive rating. I won't even get to the net rating because you could just guess if you're 27th and 29th. Yeah, you're somewhere in that range. Zion Williamson has played 6 games so far. CJ McCollum's played 5, Trey Murphy 6, DeJounte Murray, big offseason pickup. He was going to bring it all together like the rug that completed the room. He's played 1 game, but also back soon. Herb Jones, 4 games. Elfrid Payton has been a revelation off the scrap heap, and if that's the best thing that's happened to you this season, things are not good. They have used 19 players already, 14 of whom have started. I should mention that the New Orleans Pelicans are currently last at 4-14. And on top of all that, Brandon Ingram still wants a contract extension that he hasn't gotten, and still hasn't been traded despite months and months of him being thought of as a trade piece because of the contract issues and other stuff. Within the last, I don't know, it was like a 24-hour span. Maybe it was less than 24 hours. We had two scoops about one about Zion, one about Ingram, both firing their agents. Like, there's a lot of discontent going on here. This is a team that hasn't won a playoff series since 2018 when Anthony Davis was there. It's their 6th season with Zion, the 5th that he's actually played because he missed one full season. And people are already invoking Zion's contract, not guaranteed. If he didn't play X number of games, they could let him walk. They could just waive him after the season. Not likely to happen, but that we're even referencing this is not great. And they also have, I believe, one of the 5 hardest remaining schedules. So there's that. Michael, I am declaring this a 4 on the panic meter scale, but really inching toward 5. So they are sweating and cursing and very close to 3 Mile Island nuclear meltdown. And the only reason I won't go full nuclear meltdown is the injuries are the double-edged sword here for them, because it's on the one hand, hey, they'll get healthy and they might be fine. On the other hand, this is a team that's always hurt. They've overturned their medical staff and they're still always getting hurt. And I specifically, especially do not trust that Zion's going to just get healthy and then stay healthy the rest of the season, because he almost never is. And, CJ's had a lot of bumps and bangs over the years, and has a lot of miles on him. I don't know. What's your thought on the Pelicans?
I think they're screwed. I mean, so one stat for an exercise like this that I really like to look at is spread differential on cleaning the glass, which is what is the team's average point differential relative to their spread in Las Vegas. And it's just a good way to kind of gauge how a team is performing versus their expectations. And right now, the New Orleans Pelicans are dead last in spread differential, below the Philadelphia 76ers, which is I don't even know how that is possible in terms of just preseason expectations to disappointment and production and results. So I think if I were to assign a number to this team right now, I'd probably go 4 as well, just because DeJounte Murray, Zion Williamson, and Brandon Ingram have played 0 seconds so far this season. And so that's the thread of hope that I would have as a Pelicans fan or someone who works for the team in turning this season around. But I know DeJounte's about to return. When is Zion going to play? That's just a total mystery. And given his entire career up until this point, there is no reason to be optimistic about him coming back and being a productive player on a night-to-night basis. And so I think this team has, existential issues and questions that it needs to answer regarding, you mentioned Zion's contract. I don't think you're going to cut Zion Williamson, but I think that you have to this is the put up or shut up season for the era of Zion Williamson as their franchise player. And if he doesn't play again, or if he, is spotty in his return and he just can't get healthy, I don't know what you do, to be honest, because you can't go through another season like this one after what you just experienced, after, as you outlined, they haven't had any success as a basketball organization in 6, 7 years. So this is a tough one, and it's a bummer because I like this team and I thought that they were really interesting coming into the season.
Yeah. I liked the move for DeJounte Murray. I liked all the young talent that they had accumulated over the last couple of years. I liked the fact that they had so many great defenders and just a lot of really interesting interchangeable pieces. It's just a mess. It's this is, you hate to go the superstition route, but God, they feel cursed. The Pelicans, the Hornet, maybe there's something to that. The former Charlotte team and the Charlotte team and the whole just George Shin of it all somehow. There's just a bad juju hanging over everybody who's ever been associated with Charlotte NBA franchises.
13 starting lineups in 18 games. How? I don't even. I didn't know Elfrid Payton was still playing basketball.
He wasn't until about a week ago, and suddenly he's like throwing up triple doubles, and
Oh man.
yeah, it's not good. And no, I don't think they're probably recovering. I hate saying that. I've always liked this team. I don't think they're recovering. The good news for the Pelicans, they own their pick, and this is a strong draft. I don't know that's exactly the outcome you wanted to be rooting for, but there's that. All right, who else we got on the panic meter?
My next team is the Indiana Pacers.
Ooh, spicy.
Yeah, they're 8-10 right now. They're 21st in net rating. Their offense has been disappointing. Their defense is a little bit better than it was last year, but still pretty bad. And just, this team came into the season with legitimate expectations. I know they made the Eastern Conference Finals. I know it was because everybody was hurt. They still made the Eastern Conference Finals.
Yeah.
And in the first few weeks of this season, they suffered real injuries. Their front court is completely depleted thanks to a couple Achilles tears, unfortunately, to James Wiseman and Isaiah Jackson. Aaron Nesmith and Andrew Nemhard and Ben Shepherd have all been out for a little while. The real reason, though, that I'm concerned here is just like Tyrese Halliburton.
Yeah.
Like, if your franchise player is not going to be consistently, and for him, he needs to be consistently great on a level that's like Steve Nash 3.0, which he was last year for the first 3 months of the season. And so for him to be someone who was looked at as an MVP candidate, one of, if not the most impactful offensive weapons in the entire league through that 3-month stretch to start last year, for him to go from that to someone who isn't the best player on their own team right now, who has an outside looking in chance of making the All-Star team, I would say, is really concerning. And I think you can look at, there's been a lot of talk about his health. He hasn't missed a game. So as an observer, like, if you're going to get, what did he have, like 34 and 13 against the vaunted Elfrid Payton led New Orleans Pelicans the other night? But like, if you're going to do that, and then a couple games before that, you go up against the Rockets and you score like 7 points and you make one basket. Like, I don't think health is what I should be looking at necessarily as the reason for your struggles. And they've been bad when he's been on the court this year. They haven't played fast. And their coach, Rick Carlisle, has openly wondered if the physicality of the game and how it's being officiated this season has impacted Halliburton's effectiveness. So I think that that's just like, it has not reached like existential level yet, of course. But when you have high expectations and your best player has been struggling for as long as Halliburton has, I think that it's certainly cause for concern.
Yeah. Halliburton, I think, like, to boil it down to one troubling stat, he's shooting less often and less accurately.
Yes.
Like just doesn't seem quite as assertive. Even at a glance sometimes, like watching them, tentative is too strong of a term. Like if tentative especially as a point guard, if tentative is the opposite of aggressive in NBA terms, I don't know what's somewhere in between there, but he's somewhere in between there, right? Like, it doesn't look like he's looking to attack all the time. It doesn't look like he's as confident with the ball. There's a swagger to him that I've always enjoyed, in even a little of that playing the villain part, which we saw at times in that series against the Knicks, and we've seen other times where, when he's really on it, if people want to call it front runner or whatever, but like, he's somebody who likes to have some fun with it and talk some mess and carry himself a certain way. And I'm not seeing that much. Maybe there's a little chicken and egg thing going on there, but yeah. And as somebody who thought, and I did, like, I was high on the Pacers. I thought they would take another step forward this year. I thought they had an outside chance at being, maybe not top 4 in the East, but I thought top 5. I liked them overall better than the Magic. That was a minority viewpoint, which I am now regretting. because the Magic have been great even without Banchero, and the Pacers are meh even with Tyrese Halliburton right now. So, did we assign them a number yet?
I'm going 3, I think.
Three sounds about right.
Yeah.
Three sounds about right. Heart palpitations, obsessively cleaning your apartment to distract you. You could tell I spent a lot of time on these descriptions, and that I spend a lot of time obsessively cleaning when I'm stressed out. Probably not nearly enough. All right, that was your second team. My second team, going back to my Northern California roots, is the Sacramento Kings.
Oh, fascinating.
8-10 as we speak, 12th in the Western Conference. They've lost 4 in a row, including home games to the Hawks and the Nets, and that's just unforgivable on both counts, and despite the Nets being surprisingly good. This is weird. Their offensive rating right now is 12th. That's up a spot from 13th last season. Their defensive rating is 16th, which is only down a couple spots from 14th last season. Their net rating is 14th, which is actually higher than last season. And yet, they're 8-10 and 12th in the West. The very things that people were concerned about when they picked up DeMar DeRozan have come to pass. That their defense is still, blah to bad. Things that DeRozan was never going to solve. Obviously, it's not his fault that their defense isn't great, but adding him wasn't going to help their defense. And 3-pointers, they don't shoot them well enough or often enough, and they don't defend against them well enough or often enough. Malik Monk has missed a bunch of games, and that's a thing, but it's not a big enough of a thing to attribute their struggles to that. They've also had, according to all the various SRSs and RPIs and everything that I could look up before we came on, they've had one of the easier schedules to date, and thus one of the tougher remaining schedules, which does not bode well. And they just looked completely out of sorts in that loss to them. I'm putting them as a 3 on the scale for now because it's just early enough, and incorporating DeRozan and missing Monk, who was obviously a huge spark for them off the bench last year, as a 6th man of the year candidate, also a secondary playmaker type. Like they need him back in the mix, and they need to kind of figure out the rotation when he's playing consistently and where DeRozan fits into all that. So I'm not overly concerned yet with them, but where are you on the Kings?
I thought about including them here. I'm not gonna lie. I think it's just like I didn't because I wasn't super high on them coming into the season, and what I've seen, I think, is a little more dramatic in terms of how DeRozan has reshaped how they play basketball in a way that is a little more concerning than I anticipated in terms of they're 30th in at-rim shot frequency. They are 22nd in three-point rate. And these are two areas where, when Mike Brown came over, they were about league average at the rim, and they were top 3 last year in three-point rate. And now they were 26th in terms of mid-range frequency, first year of Mike Brown's tenure, and now they're first. And so it's just like the shot quality here is not good, and it makes sense with where it is because they add DeMar DeRozan. And I think that, watching them at the end of that Nets game that they lost that you just mentioned, it's odd to watch De'Aaron Fox kind of take a back seat to DeMar in a crunch time, because obviously Fox has been on this tremendous tear when DeMar was hurt and Monk was hurt, and he had to carry the scoring, and it was just like eye-popping numbers, and it was absurd. And at the end of that game, like, they lose basically because DeMar took, I don't even know, maybe he had the ball in his hands for 3 straight possessions down the stretch, and then he was like going out of his way to look for Fox. He passes it to Kevin Huerter at the top of the key. Huerter can't get Fox the ball on the swing, so he drives, dumps it off to Sabonis, who misses a little baseline 10-footer, and that's basically the ball game. So Yeah, it's like they need time to coalesce is what I would say if I was being generous about it. But I don't know, defensively, how you solve some of this stuff. I know they've been playing a lot more zone this year than they have last year, trying a lot of different things. They have some good individual defenders on their roster for sure. And they also need Keegan Murray to hit shots. But I don't know. Like, what was the ceiling for this team coming into the year for you, Howard?
Yeah, I mean, by the way, we're on like year 2 or 3 of waiting for the Keegan Murray leap, because they needed him to be like borderline all-star for this to really take off.
I don't think that's gonna happen. Sorry,
looking a little flatline-ish. Where did I expect them? Look, I figured them to be a playoff team again. Whether that was a guaranteed playoff team as in top 6 or somewhere in the high play-in range, I don't know. I don't think I ever actually like jotted down before the season started where I expected or what the order of finish would be. But yeah, I mean, somewhere in like 6 to 8 range. They're 12th right now. And, given how packed up things are in the West, like, a 5-game winning streak or 8 out of 10 or whatever, would put them right back in the mix. So it is too soon to get too panicky. Although I've got another panic number for the Kings. 35,000. That's the amount that was just announced that the NBA has fined Coach Mike Brown for, quote, aggressively pursuing a game official during live play, which happened in that aforementioned loss to the Nets 2 nights ago. So there's a panic meter stat for you. 35,000.
The Nets are a juggernaut. I don't even know why people are talking about like that was a bad loss. I mean, the Nets are beating everybody.
In the Kings' defense, they're not the only ones. They got the Warriors last night. Good Lord. All right, let's time for maybe squeeze in one more team each briefly before we get to real one of the week in the mailbag.
I mean, if we're doing like a panic meet, I was surprised you didn't say this team, but we have to just bring them up because what the hell are we doing if we don't? But the Philadelphia 76ers. Like, what are we doing?
We both probably just got too cute, like the Sixers are too obvious, but I actually also have a contradictory opinion. So go, so then I can then contradict you.
Oh, no, you got to go first because
I'm not panicking. I am not panicking about the
You're
Sixers.
not panicking about the Sixers?
No.
Okay, you got it. Please explain yourself.
I did. I jotted down a bunch of other teams and I gave them a 3. So like they'd be on the scale, but I'm not calling them a 4 or 5. Again, 4 is sweating and cursing, and 5 is 3 Mile Island nuclear meltdown. We're still at heart palpitations and obsessively cleaning the apartment. I can say this because I'm not a Sixer fan, and it doesn't bother me at all to see them flailing about. But I wouldn't be panicking just because until we see, and I get it, this is part of the problem, but until we see Tyrese Maxey, Joel Embiid, and Paul George on the court at the same time for a significant amount of minutes in a significant number of games, and then see them not be able to win, until that happens, I don't think it's time to panic about the Sixers. We are still in the zone of they need their big 3 healthy. They are very, 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 very top heavy by design, by necessity, because to have 3 max-ish players or 3 all-NBA type players in today's NBA, it means you are probably like jamming a bunch of minimums on the books after that. So they're very top heavy. And they've not had these guys together for basically at all. That is part of the problem. And if you want to hit the panic button hard, if you want to go nuclear meltdown on them, it would be on the premise that you don't believe Embiid's ever going to be healthy or ever going to be MVP caliber again, that the knee, whatever is going on, that he won't talk about, that they won't talk about, that they obfuscate about and mislead about and sometimes lie about and get fined about by the NBA. If you think that there's just something permanently wrong with Joel Embiid health-wise, then yeah, 3 Mile Island meltdown. Go for it. But until we have clarity on that, until we ever get clarity, we probably never will, I'm still operating on the assumption that at some point Joel Embiid, Tyrese Maxey, and Paul George will all be healthy and playing some length of games together, and that the Sixers could actually be pretty damn dominant when that happens. And there's plenty of season left, especially in the weird-ass Eastern Conference, for the Sixers to get back in the mix. They don't have to be a top 4 team to make a deep run as long as those 3 guys are healthy in April. There's my case.
Now I know how it feels to talk to me the past 5 years when the conversation turned to the Los Angeles Clippers. Now I get it. I get why people were so frustrated and wanted to hit me. It's it's not going to happen. Like,
But they're not going to get healthy?
No. Paul George is 34 years old. He has hyperextended the same knee twice already this season. We don't know when he's going to come back. Joel Embiid had the fact that he participated at the Olympics, he participated in every practice, every run through, every game that his coach said that he was good enough to where it made sense to actually play him. The fact that was the case, and then there was this ramp up after the Olympics to the regular season where he misses the season opener, he misses all this time, is strange, as you said. It doesn't make any sense. It's just so vague. So combining that with actually watching him play and him looking atrocious, watching Paul George play, him looking so out of sorts, no rhythm. The numbers are abysmal in his 8 appearances this season. Tyrese Maxey has not been. I mean, my expectations for him or whatever are a little dampered by what's around him and the responsibility that he had to, carry everyone with Embiid and PG out. But he's been super inefficient and not effective, in the way that I think a lot of people thought he would be. The best player on the team in a lot of ways is Jared McCain, like the rookie, who's sensational and really fun to watch and should be, Sixers fans should be really excited about that pick. It's like a home run. But what are we talking about here? Like, this team was built to win the championship.
Yes.
Right? So if that's the standard and there's a chance, a pretty good one, that they won't even make the play-in or make the play-in, and once you're in the play-in, anything can happen. And then go and play the Celtics in the first round or the Cavs in the first round or whoever. It's not going to happen. This isn't a contender. I don't know. Even if somehow magically everyone was healthy tomorrow, it takes time to gel. It takes time for Paul George to completely adjust everything about how he's played basketball his entire career to sacrifice for Embiid, who is not easy to play with. He's had multiple sidekicks in his career, and he broke many of their brains. So I don't see a path, to be honest with you. I'm not wait and see here. It's over. This is dead on arrival. And
wow. Over. On November 26th, Michael Pina has just announced time of death. He checked his watch. The nurse jotted it down.
I mean, they have 1 win outside of in regulation this season. 2 wins in regulation. One of their wins is in overtime against the Charlotte Hornets. So this is a bad basketball team.
I'm not saying it's not alarming. I'm just saying, we haven't even hit Thanksgiving.
Nick Nurse looks like he doesn't want to be the coach. Is that fair? Are you watching him? He doesn't want to be the coach.
Yeah. If when you're doing just watching body language and tone and all of that, Nick Nurse is not exactly projecting confidence or joy here. There's not much to have joy about, but the confidence or just the conviction in what he has to work with there, it's alarming. And of course, on top of it all, back to the bad vibes route here, the story comes out about team meeting and Maxey calling out Embiid for being late all the time. And instead of just owning it, Embiid, to his credit, owned some of it, tried to downplay other parts of it, and then immediately went to it sucks that people are leaking. The leak is not the problem. If you're worried more about the leak than what the subject was and the truth of that and what it says about your team, then that's a problem too. And Paul George immediately capitalized on the whole thing to promote his podcast. It's one thing for us to put out video of us saying Sixers in trouble. What's next? Or, is it time for a meltdown? Should they, tear it up? If we promote our podcast that way, that's what we're supposed to do. The players who are actually part of the meltdown are not supposed to be the ones promoting the meltdown. to get podcast traffic. But these are the times we live in, Michael Pina.
No, can I just add like another thing?
Yeah.
Like the loss to the Clippers, right? Like obviously the Clippers did not have Kawhi Leonard, obviously their best player in that game. But just watching the gap between these two in terms of like intensity, engagement, knowledge of what they were supposed to do. Like if you watch Caleb Martin in that game, defensively he was like, what is going on? And to the point where after like the fourth mistake where he's back cut for another layup, Nick Nurse pulls the plug on him and goes with like an awkward double big lineup in the second half, like 2 minutes into the third quarter. So that stuff is like beyond the stars are out. It's just like it's not a good team. You know what I mean? Like it's beyond it's not like they can come and save the day. It's just it's beyond that in my opinion. I think that there's something deeper that is just kind of rotten about the Sixers this season.
All right, so I had the Sixers as a 3. Michael Pina has them as a 5 and already dead.
I have them as an 11. It's a wrap.
What is beyond nuclear meltdown? I couldn't. I didn't have enough time to figure out where the scale went beyond meltdown. All right, I'm going to throw in one more before we close this topic because that was yours. So you've had 3, I've had 2. I'm zagging here, Michael Pina.
Love it.
Panic. It is time to panic if you're a Brooklyn Nets fan. It is absolutely time to panic. The Brooklyn Nets are 8-10 and tied with the Pacers for 7th in the Eastern Conference. And if the season ended today, they'd be 15th in the draft. They are blowing one of the most obvious tank jobs of all time. This team was designed to tank. This team went out of its way, traded a bunch of juicy future Phoenix Suns picks to get back their picks from the Houston Rockets. The Nets got back their 2025 and 2026 first-round picks, obviously with a premise in mind that we are going to be spending these picks ourselves because we are going to be really bad and we're going to get some great young new talent to build around. I do not think for a second that in the offseason, Sean Marks was thinking, you know what? If everything breaks right, and Cam Thomas and Cam Johnson both have career seasons, and Dennis Schroeder plays like it's 2019 again, and Ben Simmons finally stays healthy for 82, we can make the playoffs. Won't that be fun? Sure. I mean, I guess that's fun. We're back to one of the existential questions of the modern NBA, if you're an NBA fan, which is, would you rather have your team be fun and scrappy and have a crappy draft pick, or just steer into the tank? They screwed up. They hired too good of a coach in Jordi Fernandez, clearly.
He's so good. He's so good.
Cam Thomas makes every tough shot except for when he's just dribbling them out of possessions and then hucking up bad shots. Cam Johnson, as I mentioned, is having a career year. Ben Simmons has actually played 13 of their 18 games. This is how their total minutes reads from most minutes going down. Cam Johnson, Schroeder, Cam Thomas, Jalen Wilson, 2023 pick Jalen Wilson. I dare anybody to try to pick him out of a lineup or out of a random basketball reference photo with no name on it. He is 4th in minutes. Then Dorian Finney-Smith, then Zaire Williams, then Ben Simmons, Claxton, who's been hurt a lot, Noah Clowney, Keon Johnson, Shake Milton, Trendon Watford. Pina, I don't even know how they're winning as many games as they are. I just know that they should not be. It's inadvisable to. And this is a disaster. They can't keep winning at this rate.
Dude, this is such a great story. What are you talking about? This is amazing. Like they go into the Chase Center last night with no Claxton, no Ben Simmons, no Day'Ron Sharpe, no Clowney, like no center, no big depth whatsoever, and win. And by the way, like Cam Johnson sprained his ankle and didn't play in the second half of that game. Like, and he's probably been their most consistent two-way player. No Dorian Finney-Smith either. Like nobody. And they won that game against one of the better teams in the entire NBA. So I just think like in terms of like it's I don't think that they're gonna. I think that they will trade a lot of these guys, and I think that they will eventually tank. And I think that the flattened odds make this less of a big deal than, if I have the worst record, I have a 14% chance. You know what I mean? Like, okay. I think that Nets fans should really enjoy this and savor this. Be super appreciative for the fact that Jordi Fernandez is like a coach of the year candidate caliber leader right now.
Yeah.
And has gotten them to play a physical style. They play extremely hard. They listen to him clearly. And I think that all of that is really encouraging. And I know that this team is punted on, we want to create a great culture so that it attracts free agents. At least I would hope that they've punted on that type of long-term strategy in terms of team building. But I do think that players will want to play for Jordi Fernandez, and this is a good showcase right here. I mean, it's just that's a really good sign of health for an organization. So I think it's a great story.
You just can't let it go too long. Like, I think we agree on this part. At some point, you have to decide that we got our pick back for a reason. This is a really great draft, and we can't miss out on this opportunity because as fun as all of this is, you don't have a future as a really good team built around Cam Thomas, Cam Johnson, Dennis Schroeder, Ben Simmons. Ben Simmons is on the last year of his contract anyway. But like, this is not the core of a future powerhouse.
No,
this is a bunch of guys who are overachieving and playing their butts off, all of which is admirable and honorable and great. And as you point out, fun. But I do wonder, like, when is the trigger point when they have to start spinning off some of these pieces so that they don't win too much? Like, you still have to keep the bigger picture in mind. And I know that that's a bummer on some level. It would be more fun if this is why, once again, Mike Zarin's wheel, go Google it, folks. Mike Zarin's wheel, which would create a 30-year rotation in which every team would pick 1 through 30 at some point within that 30-year span, randomized and in groupings and whatever. That's why it would be better, because if you weren't trying to angle for a high pick, you could do this. You could overachieve, play your butts off, win as many games as you want, because your pick is not at stake. It's just slotted wherever it's slotted in the course of the 30-year wheel. I don't want to have a wheel debate. We still have these perverse incentives to where a team like the Nets that could be fun and competitive and surprising are still on some level a bummer. And I put them on my panic meter exercise because frankly, this is not what they should be doing this season. I hate to say that it is perverse, but it's reality.
I think I sense a little curmudgeonly behavior out of you right now. That's
How is that curmudgeonly? I'm a realist. I'm a pragmatist. The Nets should be tanking for Cooper Flag or Ace Bailey.
There's so much time for them to tank, and you've got other teams that are younger who I don't think are very interested in tanking, like the Pistons, the Hornets. True. I think these teams are actually like trying to develop their young talent and be competitive in basketball games. And I do think that they will. I mean, we always forget how much time there is after the All-Star break. Like, there's a lot of time to just suck. And the Toronto Raptors are a wonderful example if anyone watched them play basketball last season after the trade deadline. So not worried about their long-term plan. I think they're really smart. They will lose a ton of games this year, but I'm staying in the moment. I'm being very zen, and I'm enjoying watching the Brooklyn Nets play basketball.
So just to sum up, too early to write off the Nets' chances of getting Cooper Flag. Not too early to bury the Philadelphia 76ers, according to Mike.
Right you are.
All right, that's enough panicking for one day.